Hello, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm Alan Carter.
And I'm Tracy Tong. Welcome to Decision Toronto. The polls are closing in the biggest by-election this city has ever seen. And soon we will learn who will become the next mayor of Toronto.
Our election team has fanned out right across the city following the very latest as the poll results begin to come in. Matthew Bingley is with the Olivia Chow campaign. Colin DeMello is with the Mark Saunders team. Erica Vella is at Ana Bailão's headquarters, and Sean O'Shea is with the Josh Matlow campaign.
We also have expert analysis tonight. Our election panel is standing by to break down the significance of tonight's results. And Daryl Bricker is here from Ipsos to take a closer look at all the numbers. Welcome, everyone.
So there's going to be no shortage of numbers coming our way. 102 candidates are on the ballot. Here are 7 of the top hopefuls: Ana Bailão, Brad Bradford, Olivia Chow, Anthony Furey, Mitzi Hunter, Josh Matlow, and Mark Saunders.
But we will have to wait just a little longer to find out who will win tonight's vote. Word late this evening that the election results will be slightly delayed. And that's because 4 polling stations have had their hours extended. This is one of them that you are looking at. That's near Dufferin and Eglinton. Our Shalima Maharaj will have more on the issues there in just a few moments.
Well, of course, candidates are anxiously awaiting those results. When they do come in, they're expected to come in pretty quickly. Let's check in with some of the top campaigns. The polls since the beginning of this race have said that Olivia Chow is in first place. That may have started to shift over the last weekend. Matthew Bingley is at the Chow headquarters at the Great Hall. And Matt, do the Chow supporters still feel like this is in the bag for their candidate?
Well, it's funny that you should say that, Alan, because earlier today, one of Chow's volunteers at her campaign headquarters, as she was starting to rally the troops, said, "I think you have this in the bag." And she could sort of sense the cameras were on her. It's very easy when that happens, when, of course, you have the lights on you. She was quick to quell that, but earlier she was on the stage doing a mic check, making sure that the prompter was working, practicing her speech. And I should note that it was a victory speech. Nothing else is really in question. And you can hear the crowd getting quite fired up here. A lot of volunteers and as many party insiders and camera crews down there. A lot of people just really sensing the momentum that they've seen from their candidate over the past few weeks, hoping that that continues tonight and, more importantly, into tomorrow. I'll send it back to you.
All right, Matt, thank you so much for that. Let's check in now with the Mark Saunders campaign. Our Colin DeMello is at that team's headquarters near Avenue and Wilson. Colin Saunders has been selling himself hard as the only alternative to Olivia Chow. He's, of course, looking to pull off an upset tonight. Is there optimism in the air, or what's the feeling like there?
It is a bit tepid in here currently because, as supporters start to fill in, the conversation and the question is, where is Mark Saunders going to land when it comes to the top 5 or top 3 candidates? All right, coming into this race, Mark Saunders really tried to position himself as the only right-of-center candidate. He certainly was Doug Ford's choice in this. The Premier boosted Mark Saunders' chances on Thursday by endorsing him officially, and then on Friday recording a robocall that fanned out across the city. We had a conversation with Mark Saunders earlier this evening. He said that he believes the bulk of his support is not coming from necessarily downtown Toronto, but from the suburbs, predominantly Scarborough, North York, and Etobicoke, where he feels like his message has really been resonating when he's been knocking on those doors. And then remember, Mark Saunders has really tried to position himself as the alternative to Olivia Chow, right? Telling a lot of people that if Olivia Chow, if you're worried about taxes going up, that he would be the only person to be able to stop Olivia Chow. The Premier's robocall even called on supporters to coalesce their vote behind Mark Saunders. Will that be enough to guarantee a victory? That is a big question. But Mark Saunders today, we had a conversation with him about the polls, and he disputed one of the polls that placed him as 3rd and saying he was favoring some of the polls that placed him 2nd. So that gives you an indication of just what Mark Saunders' thought process is coming into this. Can he beat Olivia Chow, or is this a play for a strong second-place finish? We have to see as these results come in.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. Thanks so much, Colin. And you know, this campaign that Saunders has run, stop Chow, stop Chow, stop Chow. You have to wonder if in the end it might backfire as we go to Erica Vela at the Ana Bailão campaign, because Erica, if the narrative is stop Chow, must be stopped at any cost, that over the last week with the endorsement of John Tory for Ana Bailão, maybe voters believe stop Chow and will believe that it's Bailão who can do it, not Saunders. I know you're at the Revival event venue near College in Ossington. What are they saying there?
Well, I can tell you there's this real optimism here right now. Again, yeah, like you mentioned, we're at Revival. This is where Ana Bailão is going to be watching the results coming in. She's going to be watching it with her parents as well as her sister and brother-in-law. But yeah, a sense of optimism here. We're seeing volunteers and supporters come in, and you know, there's a lot of happiness, upbeat music, as you can hear behind me. But she's had a really interesting campaign run. If you think about it, she was among one of the first to throw her name in the ring to become Toronto's next mayor. But we didn't really see that momentum build until recently. We've seen, you know, a lot of councillors backing her. We saw an endorsement from Deputy Mayor Jennifer McKelvey, who is here. We actually just saw her walk in. And then, of course, last week from former Mayor John Tory. But the big question is, was this all too late? That is something we will find out tonight. We're going to be gauging reaction here and, of course, monitoring the results. I'll send it back to you.
All right, Erica, we will check back in with you shortly for those results. Our Sean O'Shea is with the Josh Matlow campaign at the Firkin on Bay Street tonight. Sean Matlow is a longtime city councillor. He was often seen as a thorn in John Tory's side, and tonight he doesn't want to be that thorn anymore. He wants to be the rose. What's the mood like there where you are?
Well, people have started to file in to this pub. A couple of minutes ago, 10 minutes ago or so, the signs, the Matlow signs that were forming the background here just came cascading down in a big crash. They also haven't been able to figure out the podium sound system. They've been working on that since 3 o'clock. Those are tiny glitches, but you know, looking back on a campaign that maybe didn't go as well as been hoped for, as expected, Josh Matlow convincingly won election to city council 3 times. This is a much different kind of a run for office, and it's been a bit of an uphill climb. The Matlow campaign is watching the votes come in from a condo not far from here, about a 5-minute walk, and of course Mr. Matlow voted with his wife earlier today. The volunteers here, they've done all they can do. There's nothing more that they can do. The polls are closed. They put their heart into it, and this is what every candidate's volunteers, you know, sit back and wait for. How did we do? Could we have done more? I think the results will determine, but I think most felt that they did a pretty good job on this campaign. Polls are one thing, votes are something else, and they're hoping that maybe things turn out differently from what the polls have been showing. Back to you.
Yeah, there can only be one winner tonight, but something tells me there will be a lot of celebrations when it comes to celebrating the hard work that everyone did throughout this campaign period. Thanks so much for that, Sean.
For more on what to watch for tonight, let us bring in our election panel. Ed Keenan is City Hall columnist for the Toronto Star. Saeed Selvam, Managing Director of New West Public Affairs, a former candidate for council. Kim Wright, Principal and Founder of Right Strategies. All right, we know that polls are delayed just by a little bit. They should be closing in about 5 minutes. I get a sense that we're only going to be able to talk once about results before they're in, and it's all over and done. It's going to be very fast. So, Ed, are we in for a surprise?
Well, I mean, the thing about surprises is that they're surprising, and it certainly looks like that's more of a possibility than it did, say, a week or two ago, with the sort of polls looking like they're closing in the final days of the campaign. It does seem like Olivia Chow's people are still pretty confident, but it's going to be a lot closer than we thought it was going to be.
Saeed?
If the polls are accurate, it's very possible, I'd say, especially given the ground game that the Bailão campaign has mounted over the last little bit. If I'm a voter and I wanted to, let's say, vote against Chow, I was thinking maybe originally Saunders, but with the recent Tory endorsement, that could possibly change things for me.
Kim, ground game is so important, and Chow has the NDP apparatus, especially downtown. How significant is that?
Well, yeah, and she was certainly boosting off of Andrea Horwath's 2018 and 22 election results. And Olivia Chow came into this campaign with a lot of swagger, a lot of understanding who she is authentically, very different than that 2014 campaign. And she is then hit that ground running. And that's why we've seen that polling data at 30, 32, 34%. Now, in the last few days, is that ground game that Ana Bailão has going to help catch up? It's really going to come down to how much voter ID was actually done during this election, and that's where we're looking for tonight.
Ed, do you think that Premier Ford's endorsement of Saunders hurt Saunders?
It's hard to say. I don't know that it hurt so much as that I think in the Saunders or the Tory-Ford endorsement sweepstakes, John Tory repeated his 2014 victory over Doug Ford by just sort of, I think those two endorsements were both offered as an attempt to launch each candidate into a clear second place, with the idea that once the not Chow candidate was defined, a lot of voters would fill into that. And it looks like Tory's endorsement carried more weight.
Yeah, did they cancel each other out, though?
I don't think they canceled each other out. And I think badly for the Saunders campaign that they'd been running this, we're the only ones, we're the only hope, Obi-Wan type of campaign. And really what we saw was that voters started to go, wait a minute, you're not our guy, you're not authentic, you're not our person. And they were looking for other options, whether that would have been Anthony Furey on the more right side of the spectrum or Ana Bailão on the sort of lefter than Saunders side. Lefter than Saunders.
Yeah. So, I mentioned NDP and to you. Is Olivia Chow, does she have some kind of force, if I might play off with Star Wars? Does she have some force to be able to say to Torontonians, I'm not that NDP?
She has a machine behind her. And this is something that we know, especially studying campaigns and looking at the Chow movement. I mean, she's a former NDP MP. She has a lot of union support behind her as well. But is she able to sort of dash to the center at this point? She's kept her campaign rhetoric relatively centrist. And I think that's been her attempt to try and overcome that whole super left of left brand that she's going into the election with, but I think she's been successful thus far in trying to dash a little bit to the center.
You mentioned endorsements and unions, and yes. I found this interesting. I was in the E.T. Seton Park this weekend. I happened to run into Local 416, the inside workers. They were having a big celebration. They gave me a free hamburger, but they are endorsing Ana Bailão. Yeah. I don't mention them because I got a free burger out of it. But they're, and that's interesting because not all unions are lined up behind Chow, Ed.
No, yeah, a few of the larger unions that deal with the city and a few other unions besides endorsed Ana Bailão very early in this campaign, and I think her campaign is probably benefiting from that too. When we talk about her ground game, when we talk about her organization, she inherited John Tory's political apparatus long before she got his formal endorsement. She's had a fundraising machine since the beginning. If you turn on talk radio in this city today, it's blanketed with Ana Bailão ads, and she's got union support out there on the street. So I do think there's something to her last-minute surge is going to come with a sophisticated operation to try and get out the vote. But I do think that her last-minute surge and those endorsements from conservative political figures also has motivated a last-minute get-out-the-vote awareness among Olivia Chow's people who maybe were taking this for granted and have suddenly started to say, oh, the rich white guys don't want her to win. We have to go out and win this, right? Like,
yeah, real quick, I mean, significant here that we have no white guys in what we believe will be the top three finishers. How significant is that?
The fact that we have the potential of the first woman immigrant mayor of Toronto is extraordinary. I mean, if you look at the pantheon of mayors past, it's pretty pasty. So I'm really excited about what this means. But ultimately, council is a fascinating place. There's some really cool things they get to do when they choose to, and that will fundamentally come at the heart of the mayor.
I want to quickly bring in, so we have some results coming in. These are very, very early, but we knew this would come fast. So, wow, this is actually 41% of the polls reporting. My goodness, that's pretty quick. And right here, Wow, this is closer than I think we would have thought. Like a week ago, if we talked about this, at this point, with 41% of polls in, would you be surprised at that?
Bailão out in the lead.
Well, this is, again, a real big testament to the machine behind Ana. I mean, she has really organized this well. To see something like this early on with 41% of polls reporting, this is pretty spectacular and a real testament to the team, to the groundwork, to the absolute mobility that she has across the city. So I'd say this is a surprise.
Yeah, I got to stress again, very, very early. Kim, initial thoughts?
Yeah, this is where we've seen the last couple of days polls tightening up. I think what will be interesting to see is how much of this are advanced poll ballots. We saw these record numbers of advanced poll that came in. How that shakes out the rest of the time, that's going to be the trick of the night. But the Bailão campaign has certainly surged in the last week.
Ana's campaign is going to be thrilled with that.
No, I assume that they would be very, very, very excited about that. I mean, for them to be out in the lead. And we don't have any information at this stage where that 41% is coming from, which wards it's concentrated in, how much of it is the early vote. But I think with Ana Bailão, who looked like she might be in 4th or 5th place 2 weeks ago in the polls, being out in the lead with 40% of the vote in, it's got to be looking great for her.
Well, it is going to be perhaps a much tighter race than we predicted, and perhaps because of that, it won't be over as quickly as we had previously thought. Tracy, let's go back to you.
All right, thanks for that, Alan. Yeah, a very close race so far with those early results and in a different direction from what we were expecting from those opinion polls. I want to bring in Daryl Bricker now, CEO of Ipsos Public Affairs. Daryl, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thanks.
I just want to first ask you about those early results that we just got. You had released a poll a week ago showing that Olivia Chow was almost triple what any of her even closest contenders were polling at then. What do you think has changed from then till now?
Well, it looks like Ana Bailão has executed the strategy that Mark Saunders was talking about. If you wanted to stop Chow, you had to get behind a candidate, and people seem to be getting tonight behind Ana Bailão. So what we're seeing here is the consolidation of all of the second place vote behind her. Olivia Chow is actually not far off of what the polls were showing she was going to get. The real surprise here is the amount of support that Ana Bailão was getting. But, you know, it's 41% of the vote. We'll have to see how it goes. There's a lot more to come in, and depending on, you know, where this vote is located. We know Olivia Chow is especially strong in downtown Toronto, so if they haven't counted a lot of those votes yet, I'd expect to see a gap starting to grow for Olivia Chow. But, you know, these are surprising numbers to start off, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, and things are moving very quickly. Daryl, we are going to come back to you in just a little bit, but we're going to send things over to a check on the results right now. So let's take another look at the early results that are coming into Global News at this moment. We have 69% of the polls reporting Ana Bailão with 37.4% of the vote. Olivia Chow at 34.1% of the vote. So that margin widening just slightly here and putting Ana Bailão in the lead so far, which is, again, not what those opinion polls had reported. Let's send things over to Ana Bailão's headquarters now, where our Erica Vela is standing by. Erica, you have a guest. Jennifer McKelvey, I believe, is with you, the deputy mayor who actually came out and supported Ana Bailão after saying that she was going to stay out of it.
Yes, that's right. Tracy, I just want to, the energy in here is just, you can hear the sound from the crowds. There's supporters and volunteers behind me, and it is just a very optimistic feeling here. Again, I'm joined by Deputy Mayor Jennifer McKelvey, who endorsed Ana Bailão. Now, talk to me about what went into this decision to endorse Ana Bailão for mayor.
Well, during the last term, I walked closely with Ana Bailão, and I saw the hard work she put into affordable housing in the city of Toronto. I want to see her continue that work as our mayor, and she's a wonderful person, and she'll be a true Toronto champion.
Now, we saw your endorsement come a couple of weeks ago. Mayor John Tory also endorsing Ana Bailão last week, late in the game. Is this a little too late, or could it be enough to see the push to see Ana Bailão Bailão become mayor?
Well, I think Ana said it best. She was accepting endorsements right up until 8 p.m. today, and the biggest endorsement of all is that of the voters of Toronto, and I'm hoping that they're going to step up and elect Ana Bailão today. She's a wonderful person. She'll be a wonderful mayor.
Can you talk to me even just about the energy in here right now? I mean, and you're going to be watching the results with Ana as well?
I'll go back up and say hello and check in with Ana, but it's amazing to see the energy in the room. The love for Ana is just ever so evident, and all these people that are here have been working so very hard for her, and I'm hoping they get the big win tonight.
Thank you so much. Again, that is Deputy Mayor Jennifer McKelvey who's joining us. Yeah, we're going to stay here and continue to monitor results. Again, the energy here is very optimistic. A lot of cheering and screaming. We heard chanting for Ana Bailão. So we're going to be here monitoring the situation. But in the meantime, I'm going to send it back to you.
All right. Thank you, Erica.
Well, here are the latest numbers that we have now. 70% of polls have been reported. We knew this was going to come in quick. What we did not expect was this result at this point. Ana Bailão extending her lead. It is very close at this point, but she does have a lead over Olivia Chow. Look at those numbers for Mark Saunders. What we have been saying over the last couple of days, last 72 hours, that for Ana Bailão to be able to beat Olivia Chow, Mark Saunders' vote would have to collapse, and at 8%, it appears that it has.
A stunning development so far, Alan. Of course, things are changing very quickly. And we did mention off the top of our show that some polls are reporting some issues, and that has led to extended voting hours. So these results, the final results, may take a little more time to come in. Our Shalima Maharaj is at one of those 4 polling stations experiencing issues. Shalima, what's the problem there and why the delay?
Hey there, Tracy. So we're at St. Thomas Aquinas Catholic School. This is near Dufferin and Eglinton. This is one of the 4 polling stations that had been undergoing extended voting hours. Now, the doors literally just closed about 30 seconds ago, so it is closed as of now. But this, along with a couple of other locations, including the Britton House, that location is open until 9 o'clock. The city said that these locations were extending their hours for a number of earlier interruptions. We reached out to them to get some clarification on what they meant. They said that included everything from medical issues to fire alarm being pulled, or fire alarm going off rather. And so here at St. Thomas Aquinas, that was the situation, a fire alarm resulting in that bit of a delay. But for a lot of the people that were coming out here, they were having to contend with traffic, of course, another issue that we've talked about quite extensively, traffic and infrastructure, just to try to get down here to cast their ballot. A lot of people who were still able to show up at the time that the polling stations were extended until, they were able to still go inside and cast their ballot. Certainly even people who came without their voting cards, there was a way of being able to verify identity. But a lot of the people down here who came out, they were just eager to make sure they were able to have their say. So one of those 4 stations remains open until 9 o'clock. But as of now, that issue, the city says they don't expect it to cause any major interruptions. For now, I'll send it back to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Shalima. Let's get back to the results. As I mentioned, they're coming in quickly. If you voted today, you put that card into the electronic reader, so there's no humans counting all of these votes. That's why it's happening so quickly. 79% now of the polls are reporting a 36.9% vote for Ana Bailão, who is in the lead. She has a 2 percentage point lead on Olivia Chow. Obviously, that is very, very tight. But the people at the Chow headquarters who thought they had this thing in the bag just 72 hours ago just must be sick with worry right now. That is where our Matt Bingley is at the Chow headquarters. Matt.
Well, Alan, I don't know if sick with worry is the exact result that you're seeing here, but a little bit less than I would say we saw on the excitement factor. I'm just joined by Councillor Asma Malik here right now. Councillor, I'm just wondering, a second ago you looked at the results there and you said, wow, and I'm just wondering, when you take a look at them, it's not over yet, but were you expecting something this close?
You know what I have been really excited by is the enthusiasm that Torontonians have been showing around actually tackling the big issues that are facing our city, galvanizing behind a number of candidates. And we've been seeing that big momentum for Olivia. And, we've all been through elections, and we know that you can't conclude a result till the last vote is counted. So what I'm seeing here is that just a lot of Torontonians wanted to get out, make their voices heard, and actually set the direction for the future of this city, and that's very exciting.
The direction, though, seems to be, looking backwards a little bit more. It seemed with some of the results that we were going to see a bit of a change vote here. I know the former mayor came out and endorsed Ana Bailão a short time ago. Some people thought that was maybe a little too late to do that. Do you think this is the results of things of that, or do you think this is, just their ground game, the amount of money behind it?
I'm not going to presuppose the outcome of the election. We're still seeing the returns come in. What I can tell you is what I've been hearing as I've been encouraging people to, come out to make sure that they vote. Talking about Olivia's track record, the values that she shares with so many Torontonians of a city that's more fair, a city that's caring, and a city where we can imagine a future for ourselves. We've had a number of challenging years in the city, and 12 years of going in a direction that has put us in a place where it is very hard to imagine what the future would be. And, this was an opportunity that we didn't necessarily expect to have. And there was a lot of catching up to do for Torontonians to see. We all understand what's at stake, but also to understand the options in a very short time frame. Olivia's done a tremendous job of being able to reach people where they're at, to connect with their stories through her own, to show what she's able to do. And I'm excited about what people were telling me at the door, and I'm excited to see how things land today.
Okay, we're going to let you get back to watching it, and good luck.
Thank you very much.
I'll send it back to you in the studio, Alan.
All right, thank you very much, Matt. Let's get back to those results again and just take a breath here, because even though we have 80% of the polls reporting, look at how tight this is. Less than a single percentage point between Ana Bailão in first and Olivia Chow in second. Less than 5,000 votes separate the two. Now, the next two on this, number 3 and 4, incredibly interesting here as well. Mark Saunders, who up until recently was expecting to poll in the mid 15, 17, hoping to maybe even get closer to 20% if he could. He's at 8. Anthony Furey, the absolute outsider in this race, no electoral experience, no leadership experience, 4.8 in fourth place. Let's get to the Saunders camp right now and get a sense of what they're thinking about. Colin DeMello is there. Colin.
Well, Mark Saunders is currently upstairs above this wing joint watching the results come in. No doubt a bit disappointed because while they had expected to do much better, perhaps second place at the very least, those numbers really haven't come in to the degree that they were hoping to. I want to bring in one of the campaign managers, Larissa Waller. So what happened?
You know what? It's obviously not the result that we were hoping for tonight. We heard on the doors today that a lot of our voters had switched to Bailão. Also with the message that we had to stop Chow. Obviously the polling the last few days flipped to Bailão's favor, and I think, the former mayor's endorsement obviously pushed her up. But I think the good news is that we had a full slate of candidates. Everybody who ran for the position of mayor loves Toronto. I think we'll be well served by Mayor Bailão, or presumptive Mayor Bailão, maybe Mayor Chow. But I think it's indicative of the feeling of our city that we're going to be led by likely a woman, likely an immigrant, and I think that's really exciting.
Well, there is a positive spin to this no matter what, of course, but what happened to the Premier's support here? I mean, the Premier has a massive megaphone and huge support, having 12 seats in the city of Toronto. How come the Premier's backing didn't pull out the vote for Mark Saunders?
Yeah, you know what? I think when we get technically into how do you pull out the vote, how do campaign operations work, Ana Bailão didn't have just John Tory's endorsement. She had the John Tory machine. The John Tory machine is very good at campaigning. It's very good at pulling out the vote.
But Mark Saunders had the Doug Ford machine.
So I think we'll disagree on that. I think Mark Saunders had the Doug Ford vote, but Ana Bailão had the John Tory machine, and obviously it's working in her favor tonight.
Okay, so have you broken it to the candidate yet? I mean, he's obviously watching. How do you think he's going to take all of this in?
You know what? Mark will find ways to serve the city like he did as police chief. He's very, very focused on solving crime and disorder in the city, and I think he'll look for opportunities to serve, in the future.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. So that's Larissa Waller, the campaign manager for Mark Saunders, telling us there that the anti-Olivia Chow votes seem to have, in the last minute, switched to Ana Bailão as opposed to Mark Saunders, as they were hoping for. We'll see how those results keep pouring in, whether or not it's going to solidify the Ana Bailão vote, switching from Mark Saunders to Ana Bailão.
Colin, that is so interesting to think about campaigning as hard as Saunders has about Stop Chow. I mean, he did not hold a press conference where he didn't. If you had a drinking game where you said you would take a drink every time he said Stop Chow, you would be under the table within 5 minutes. And then it turns out that campaign backfires and the votes go potentially to Bailão.
Yeah, and that, of course, is going to be the big question. I mean, we've been talking about this throughout the entire election campaign, right? Who's going to come in second? Who's going to be able to have that break-off vote to the anti-Olivia Chow vote? And it seems like, according to the campaign staff here, that it was the John Tory effect. That last-minute Hail Mary pass from John Tory seems to have shifted some of the momentum away from Mark Saunders, taking it to Ana Bailão. And even though Doug Ford, the Premier of Ontario, with a massive megaphone and a lot of vote support, put his weight behind Mark Saunders, it didn't really seem to be able to even help him crack the double digits in terms of that popular vote percentage. So now it's just left to be seen, right? And Anthony Furey, who was also taking votes away from Mark Saunders, last check was about 25,000. Go ahead.
Colin, sorry, I'm just going to interrupt you because we have some new results coming in, and this is a change here we have now. Olivia Chow has now pulled narrowly into the lead. Now we have 86% of the polls reporting. So suddenly the script flips again. And Olivia Chow, with 36.2% of the vote, leading Ana Bailão. And again, you see Mark Saunders still stuck in that 8%. Anthony Furey creeping up. Let's take you to the Olivia Chow headquarters right now. They are watching the results just as we are. The excitement is building. Obviously very nervous in the last hour as they saw Ana Bailão pull out to that, at one point, was a somewhat significant lead, 2 or 3%. I mean, not that significant, but significant enough. Now things are beginning to turn. Does this trend hold? What we don't know is where are the votes coming from? Are we still getting votes from the downtown core? Because that's going to help Olivia Chow. Are we still getting votes from the suburban ring outside of Toronto? Or not outside, on the outer ring, what's sometimes referred to as the Rob Ford wards? Are we getting those votes late? All of it means that this is simply too close to call. Our election panel is with us. Ed Keenan, Kim Wright, Saeed Salvam. This is much tighter than anybody expected. I mean, obviously, it's great for the drama. Saeed, your impression, what you've heard so far.
It's fantastic for the drama. I mean, this is election night. Anything can happen. This is a surprise, especially when it comes to the recent polling that we've seen. I mean, the polling has basically said it's Chow all the way through. First, we were seeing Ana Bailão just a few minutes ago. Now it's Chow. So it's still so early to call. There's still some polls that we're waiting on, but this is definitely a surprise.
Kim?
Well, I'm certain that Daryl Bricker will say this is exactly what we predicted in terms of a Chow vote, that mid-30s percentage points. So we'll see how this plays out the rest of the evening. But there is no question that the Saunders vote and the Furey vote have utterly collapsed this evening. And I think, as everyone is talking about, the more that they tried to put that I'm the only one who can beat, and John Tory comes in, those numbers started to shift significantly. The Saunders campaign never really took off. There was this feeling of a lack of authenticity of his campaign, and so it had plateaued very early on. Furey was the beneficiary of that for a while. Then, as we've seen in the last few days, this has been a complete collapse for the Saunders and Furey campaign. And I've said this repeatedly, and I think I said it last week on this broadcast. Ford Nation votes are not transferable to somebody whose last name isn't Ford. So unless there's a Ford on the ballot, you're not getting the Ford Nation votes showing up.
Ed.
I think, you know, when we're looking at less than 2% of the vote dividing them, this is a nail biter to the end among those two front runners. It clearly is closer than we thought it was going to be. And what's partly remarkable about that is that this is an election where almost everybody on almost every debate stage said, time for a change. Change, 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 change. And what swung us to make it actually close in the end is that the guy who's presided over the last 8 years said who he was going to vote for, and that actually made the most status quo, the candidate offering the most continuity with the past, springboard right to the front of the pack. And so it's going to be a nail biter there at the front. What's also kind of interesting is down at the bottom, where I think the last time I checked the numbers a little further down, Chloe Brown was beating Mitzi Hunter, just edging her out, and Brad Bradford was actually in 9th place.
Yeah, this goes back to what we've talked about a few times. Where do some of those other campaigns, the gong effect, where do those come in? And especially if what we're waiting on are still the advance poll ballots, which I suspect a lot of that is, that's going to come into effect more and more. But this is certainly was the coalescing Mark asked for, and careful what you wish for in politics, you just might get it.
Well, but look at those numbers there. So, like, if we, let's just say at the end of the night, somehow we're in the 2% range, separating 1 and 2, then suddenly if you go further down the list, like all of a sudden Mitzi Hunter's numbers could have made a huge difference, or Bradford's numbers, if they had, like, maybe if they had done some endorsement and moved even a percentage of their number over, it could have made the difference.
If wishes made it so, I'd be 6 feet tall, right? Like, let's be honest about what politics is. It's first past the post, it's identifying your vote and getting them into that ballot box. Anything else is just performative, but this is what a good GOTV night looks like.
Well, and I will say that this is one thing where I think there's going to be a couple candidates at the end saying, you know, this voting system robbed me, right? Or almost robbed me.
Sure.
And we did almost have a ranked ballot system in this city. But I am a proponent of not necessarily ranked ballots, but like in many American cities and jurisdictions, having an actual runoff, where when you have 102 candidates, the top two have a second election a week later.
That makes more sense. All right, guys, I got to quickly get back to Chow's headquarters. Matt Bingley is standing by there. Our most recent numbers, Matt, show Olivia Chow has pulled out. Look, now she's extending that lead. We're looking at about 12,000 votes here. Never ask an anchorman to do math. Let's go to Matt. What's the feeling where you are?
Well, Alan, it's funny. You can sort of get a sense of how the vibe is going, not only just on the people cheering, but on the music that they're playing. They've been playing a lot more party anthems as the vibes go up and the volume goes up. But a second ago, Daft Punk was playing one more time. They're probably hoping for one more percentage point here because, as Ed was saying, with the nail biter side of this, it's becoming a bit of a horse race, and the last thing they want to do is start seeing the momentum shift back and forth. But right now, the vibes are good. We'll see if we can keep it going, or at least they can keep it going. But it's funny, a second ago, we were talking with City Councillor Asma Malik. She was looking at the results as they were coming in on Ana Bailão's campaign and seemed to be a little bit more nervous about what she was seeing. Very quick to say it's not over until it's over. I looked over at her as some of these new results were coming in for the Olivia Chow side of things, and the smile was back. So that seems to be the way that it's hopefully for these supporters going to continue as we go on. I'll send it back to you now.
All right, Matt, thank you so much for that. That's our Matt Bingley live at Chow headquarters. Let's take another look at the results now. 91% of the polls reporting Olivia Chow securing 36.4% of the vote so far. Ana Bailão with 34.3%. So that's 2 percentage points being the difference here. But as you know, Alan, with those polls reporting that number getting higher and higher, we are going to see that number, solidify fairly quickly. We are, of course, waiting for those votes, though, to trickle in. Mark Saunders there, though, being a bit of a surprise when it comes to
yeah, okay, so Tracy, you'll see here on the lower down on the ballot, if you will, in terms of the rankings, you got Josh Matlow, Mitzi Hunter, Chloe Brown at 2.7%. How's about that? Outpolling Brad Bradford. And Matlow's numbers are not nearly what he had hoped. Obviously, Mitzi Hunter and Brad Bradford cannot be happy with that kind of a number. Let's get to Erica Vela with more on what you're hearing where you are, Erica.
Well, things have certainly quieted down. You know, just about 10 minutes ago, it was just, you heard people chanting, there was cheering when we saw Ana Bailão in the lead. Now that lead has dropped back a bit, but I'm joined here by Taylor Deasley. You are the press secretary for the Bailão campaign. Talk to me, you know, are these the results you were hoping for, or you think there's still time?
I think that we're really seeing now more than ever that this is a two-horse race, how close Ana is, how much momentum our campaign has, and how much widespread we have across the city, from Etobicoke to Scarborough to North York to the downtown. We have been seeing it on the streets, at the doors, on the doorsteps. We've been to 700,000 doorsteps since the campaign started, 150,000 since just this week alone. We've made over 2 million calls. We've had hundreds of supporters and volunteers on the ground talking to people all day long. So we're really feeling the momentum, and we're seeing how much support Ana has across the city, and it's super exciting.
Well, one of the big key issues here is, you know, we saw some endorsements, some big endorsements from former Mayor John Tory as well as Deputy Mayor Jennifer McKelvey, but those came in pretty late into the campaign. Do you think that if those happened earlier, we would see maybe different results tonight?
I think it's hard to say that, but I think we're seeing that Ana's message to fix services, to build housing, to make life more affordable is resonating with people across the city. That reflects in her Toronto Star endorsement. That reflects in her endorsement from former Mayor John Tory, but she also has endorsements from two former mayors as well, Barbara Hall and Art Eggleton, and these are people that have done the job. They know what it takes to lead this city. It is not easy, and to have their endorsement to say that Ana is the best person to lead this city speaks volumes of her leadership, of her character, of her ability to lead, and that's in addition to Ana having the most support on City Council out of all of the other mayoral candidates, as well as 6 unions, private and public, and residents, as we're seeing in the polls across this city, are supporting Ana and coming out to vote.
Now, she's in the building right now. She's watching the results come in. Have you been speaking to her? What has she been saying to you?
I saw her just a little bit earlier. She's super excited. She's in an amazing mood, and that's not just from the results that we're seeing now, but it's from the engagement that she's been doing all weekend, all day today. She's been out talking to residents from across the city. She's been having an amazing time. She's at her happiest when she's talking to people, and you really see that. Yesterday we were at the Pride Parade interacting with hundreds, if not thousands of people, and Ana's just thrilled. She's super happy to be here, and I'm sure she's absolutely thrilled to watch these results coming through.
Thank you so much. That's Taylor Deasley, who is she's the press secretary for the Bailão campaign. We're going to continue to monitor results coming in and obviously gauge reaction here from supporters and volunteers, but I'm going to send it back to you in the meantime.
And of course, we are watching the results very closely tonight. 91% of the polls reporting right now Olivia Chow in the lead with 36.5% of the vote. Ana Bailão not far behind at all, 33.8% of the vote. The difference there, if I'm doing my math correctly, would be around 17,000 votes. Now, this being a stunning development, as Olivia Chow in those early opinion polls had a wide margin, a much wider margin than we are seeing here tonight. Alan, a lot to break down with our panel tonight.
Yeah, thanks, Tracy. Let's get to that. Does this suggest to you, Insight, I'll start with you, does this suggest to you a deeply divided city?
Not so much, but it does suggest the power and the influence that John Tory has over the city. I think that absolute influence is not something that can be understated. I think that he and his endorsement really went a long way for the Bailão campaign. And I think no matter what happens tonight, the Bailão campaign should consider this a win regardless, because with this last-minute endorsement, it really helped to push things forward. And it also speaks to the fact that in that endorsement that John Tory made, he spoke specifically about the importance of being right in the middle, being able to negotiate amongst factions within council, being able to negotiate with the province and the federal government. And I think to possibly many undecided voters, that resonated.
Is Olivia Chow, I mean, we see the numbers here. It looks, it's very early, But has her campaign, what struck me when I talked to her is that she was all about hugs and happiness, while all the rest of them, I interviewed 7 of them, told me that Toronto was more expensive, it's smelly, it was unsafe, and she was the only one that was relatively optimistic. Did that help?
Look, Olivia has always come at this with a sense of hope and optimism and positivity, and that really has been the hallmark of her campaign. She knows that there are big challenges in the city of Toronto. She knows that there are ways in which you can engage with people that isn't always doom and gloom and spite. And we've seen some of those candidates not hit even double digits tonight, the doom and gloom and the world is a terrible place. So I think what you're looking for, what Torontonians are looking for, is a combination of, I get it, there are lots of really deep problems, and I can figure a way to find a solution without always finger pointing at everyone else. And that's the kind of conversation that has resonated with 36% of Torontonians all the way through this campaign.
Well, let's talk doom and gloom here, because when I asked Olivia Chow what kind of mayor you're going to be, she said, I'm going to be a caring mayor. When I asked Mark Saunders, what does Toronto need? He said discipline.
Yeah, and Mark Saunders was all about being a protector. Anthony Furey ran maybe a sort of tear it down kind of campaign. And I think that there's a certain amount of negativity that can work if you are a sort of burn this to the ground kind of candidate. Rob Ford was sort of like fire all those bums, you know, Donald Trump drain the swamp. But I think that there's a level of disengagement that comes with hopelessness. And so I think with Olivia Chow, there's almost more like, you know, Bob the Builder. Like, can we fix it? Yes, we can. Yeah, the city's a bit broken, but we are going to come together and fix this. And it's offering people that hope that she hopes will bring them out to the ballot box. And I think it's worked for her to some extent. Whether it will work enough that she actually wins this in the end is like, we're still waiting to see. But I think the type of campaign she was trying to run suits the kind of mayor that she was hoping to be.
As we take a live look there, that is the Ana Bailão headquarters. Always like to see a guy in a cowboy hat in Toronto. Enjoy that. Tracy, back to you.
Oh, you're just going to throw it over to me with that, Alan? Can't beat the cowboy hat. Wow. Let's take another look at the results board, though, right now. Just for another quick update, with 93% of the polls reporting, we have Olivia Chow with 36.8% of the vote and Ana Bailão with 33.3%. Those who are at the Chow headquarters must be feeling pretty good right now. And that is where we find our Matthew Bingley, who is live with another guest for us. Matt, we know that this campaign has very much also been a game of endorsements. Olivia Chow got one very early on from another mayoral candidate who dropped out and backed her, Gil Penalosa. What's he got to say tonight?
Yeah, that's right, Tracy. Okay, that's right, Tracy. And I assure you, I'm not about to do a dance move here, even though the music is very loud. Gil, you know, you were the second place runner-up in the last election. A lot of eyes were on you of whether you were going to run again and potentially split an already split vote. You threw your support behind Olivia Chow. A second ago, you said to me that you think that may have played a crucial point in where we're seeing the numbers break down. Why is that?
Well, I have no doubt that it made an impact. Last year, I got 100,000 votes on October. Let's assume that I had gotten only 40,000. That would have made a difference. And Toronto would have missed the opportunity to have a progressive mayor. And it was never about me. It's about Toronto. Olivia is going to be a mayor like no other since amalgamation. It's going to be the first woman since amalgamation, the first immigrant from non-North America, the first visible minority, but also she's a woman that wants a Toronto for everyone, and I think that's going to be very good. She was a school trustee, she was twice a councillor, she was an MP, and I think it's going to be amazing.
I have to ask, you know, a lot of people will be looking at your support and wondering why you chose Olivia over, say, a Josh Matlow or somebody else, because you said when you made the idea of throwing your support, your endorsement, it seemed like there was a little bit more closeness in the polling at that moment. What made you think that she was in the position to really do something with that support?
Well, in the middle of March, both came to me separately. I met with Matlow, with Josh, for 3 hours. The next day, I met with Olivia for 4 hours. And I told both of them, I said, I like you both. I'm going to support whoever I think has a higher probability to win. because more than anything, it's not about any of us three. It's about Toronto. And at some point, I felt that Olivia had that feeling that she was going to win, and then I supported her. When I supported her on April 17, she had 22, Josh Madlow 22, Saunders 20. So I think it might have helped because the next week she was up by 8 points and the following week by 16. But it was not about me. She ran a magnificent campaign. She has a wonderful team. And I think that she's ready to step in as mayor and start making a lot of changes. We've had a horrible mayor for the last 12 years. We have a huge financial crisis. We have a housing crisis that they have not have a dent on it. The parks are dirty, the subway, the public transit is unsafe. So there are huge challenges, but I think she's up to it.
Okay, well, we're going to send it back to you. It's very hard to hear the control room, so I'm going to trust that you are ready to take this from me.
Trust and trust away. Thank you very much, Matt. I appreciate that. This Anthony Furey is about to speak. There he is right there. In terms of the results, at this point, he is in fourth. He ran an outsider campaign.
Can we go live?
His support was considered to be higher at one point, but then dropped back. Here he is taking some questions and about to speak. Here is Anthony Furey.
Fantastic, because as you saw in that room there, so many supporters, so many people who are part of this, coming forth in a heavily contested race with whatever 10 major candidates out there really working with big campaigns. And you know, they said I couldn't do it, they said I couldn't break through, and we did, and it feels great. There's a lot of heavy hitters there, and it's great to be one of them there. And we just really gave it our heart and soul. We were the little campaign that could, and it was great to have a grassroots movement where we took ideas that were from the heart, we were passionate about, and we were in it for the right reasons. And to have so many volunteers and donors and voters who were really standing beside you and behind you because they believe in the vision that I had articulated, they believed in those concerns that I was speaking about, and I just feel so fantastic about it. Now, I think we probably saw some late moves where there were a lot of people who really were planning to vote for me, and they decided to make some other decisions right at the ballot box there, because the passions and concerns about Olivia Chow not being mayor were really strong with some people. So I imagine I lost some support there. I probably, if things had been different, would have had a much larger support in the vote count. But the bottom line is that the actual grassroots support I got was immense, and I know everybody said I couldn't do it, and I did. So
This was your first foray into politics. Is it your last?
You know what? The past few months, I have just fallen in love with Toronto even more. My commitment to this city has grown these past 3 months, and this is not the end. This is just the beginning.
Do you see yourself running for office again?
I wouldn't leave anything out.
There's a lot of questions about vote splitting in the last few weeks between particularly your camp and Mark Saunders' camp. Do you feel this could have been a much tighter race here if those voters had one specific candidate to really rally around, and that could have really bumped up the vote count?
Yeah, it could have, and there were definitely a lot of polls that showed Mark Saunders and I pretty much tied there within that margin of error. But there were a lot of candidates out there, and there were a lot of people. There were a couple people in the center right and a few people on the center left. I think what's more interesting is that there are a number of candidates on the left or center left who totally collapsed. So I actually feel good about my fourth place showing.
Now that, it's between Bailão and you were Chow, just listening to Anthony Furey there speaking live. We will, of course, bring you any other speeches that happen over the course of the night. Let's take another look at these results coming in. 94% now of the polls reporting. We have Olivia Chow at 37.1%. Ana Bailão has 32.8% of the vote. So you can see the margin there widening as we go along here. Let's bring in Daryl Bricker from Ipsos again to break down what some of these numbers are saying. Daryl, thanks for standing by. Taking a look at these numbers and what they were just in the last hour, things have really turned. We saw Bailão in the lead, and now Olivia is in the lead and has a more commanding one. What do you think Torontonians are saying tonight?
Well, I think a couple of things happened in this campaign. When you take a look at the polling all through the campaign, it's been pretty accurate on Olivia Chow. What it didn't get was that true last-minute potential for a rush to a single candidate on the other side of the political spectrum, that being Ana Bailão. So what we've really seen is a really strong performance from her team right at the very end of this campaign. But it looks at this point like Olivia Chow is going to get about pretty much what the polls were predicting.
Yeah, you polled people also on the top issues that mattered most to Torontonians. What do you think about, what do you think it was about Olivia that really resonated with Torontonians?
Well, she really did a good job of positioning herself on what it was that people cared about, having an emotional connection on the issues of housing affordability and on the just the day-to-day cost of living in the city of Toronto. And on all the issues, basically, she led, except for one, which was public safety, which Mark Saunders led on. And you can see what the effect of that was. It didn't really have a big impact on the outcome of the election. So everything that counted, Olivia Chow tended to have a lead on. But clearly, at the end of this campaign, we saw that there were a lot of people who were uncomfortable with Olivia Chow winning this race, and they decided to consolidate at the very last minute behind Ana Bailão.
Yeah, and one thing we know for certain after tonight is that voting matters. Thank you for that, Daryl.
It does.
Alan, over to you.
Thanks. Let's get back to our panel here as we digest these results. It does appear Olivia Chow's lead is widening. It does also appear, from what I've seen in terms of a breakdown, that we have a pretty significant divide in this city. We have an urban center that is progressive, and then we have some wings around the outside of the city that tends to vote more, shall we say, centrist. Is that accurate, Said?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, this is something that has played out for the last few elections, especially in this one. If you were to add up all of the votes that are essentially not voting for Olivia, essentially it outnumbers Olivia's number. So it's basically saying that there are people, especially after amalgamation, that feel that they want to go in a different direction, not necessarily on the left, not necessarily quote unquote progressive, and they're looking to make sure that they're not being taxed or whatnot, or whatever Olivia was accused of essentially bringing forward as an agenda. So I'd say that it's sticking right now in terms of the divide between the downtown core and the suburbs. We'll just have to see the rest of the night how it plays out.
Kim, is this single-family homeowners against the downtown?
No, not at all. And frankly, this map that we're seeing unfolding over the election is exactly what we see campaign after campaign. You either win what we call the umbrella, or you win the anchor. And that's sort of how these are breaking down, which is interesting as we start to look at ward by ward breakdowns. Early ones I've seen is that Ana didn't win her old seat in Davenport. Now we'll see how that shakes out at the end of the night, but you've got to win your home turf if you're going to win the mayorship. It's sort of how that works out. The Chow people knew exactly who their voters were from the very beginning of this race. They targeted it, they understood their voters, and we saw in debate after debate where everyone was looking for this knockout punch against Olivia, and Olivia's standing firm. She knew who her voters were and what they were looking for, and that's going to serve her well throughout the rest of this campaigning. Governing can start tomorrow, but campaigning, they knew exactly where they were going and how they got there.
You know, Ed, we talked a lot about turnout and percentages and whether or not whoever won this thing would actually have any kind of mandate at all. I mean, this is a higher percentage if it holds up for Olivia Chow than we might have expected, but it's also far more divided between two people.
Well, I mean, we'll have to see, right? Because there's been so many different candidates. But I would just, Mel Lastman beat Barbara Hall by about 5 points, right? And David Miller beat John Tory by about 5 points. And so we have a history of successful mayors whose margin is not overwhelming. In this case, we had so many different candidates and nobody got a plurality. I'll just put a plug in again for some kind of runoff would solve this problem. But we also, like Rob Ford did not win a majority of the vote. David Miller did not win a majority of the vote their first times around. John Tory did not win a majority of the vote his first time. He had 40%. And a lot of people considered that a fairly resounding mandate. So I think if Olivia Chow is elected, I think we can say she's got a mandate, but she's got to marshal it.
Well, that's a good point to stop.
There's a lot of excitement.
We have some breaking news to tell you about. Global News has is announcing that Olivia Chow has been elected as the mayor of Toronto. We want to get over to our Matthew Bingley, who is live at Olivia Chow's headquarters right now. Matt, how are people there reacting to this news?
Well, I'm going to bring in Councillor Gord Perks. I'm just going to ask you, how do you feel when you hear Mayor-elect Olivia Chow?
I mean, those are the three best words I've heard in 20 years. Mayor-elect Chow, Torontonians wanting something different, something better, and tonight they voted for it.
You know, one thing we've been talking about mandate a lot. You look at the way that the votes have split down, 37% is currently being reported for Olivia Chow. Is that a strong mandate when you're looking at the city?
I think that coming first in an election is a mandate to get to work and to build that consensus for the change you want. And I don't know anybody who builds consensus better than Olivia Chow.
One thing that it was very clear when we were talking with some of the campaign organizers is just how hard she works. Almost like a bit of a bizarro John Tory. We always knew how much she worked, but it was on a right-leaning mayor. Okay, we'll get back to this later. I'll let you go, and then we'll send it back to you.
Okay, thanks, Matt. I just want to interrupt you, and we want to go now to the Bailão headquarters where she is speaking.
For sure, I have the best team ever! I have absolutely no regrets. Our incredible campaign was fitting of our amazing, amazing city. And it's I am so grateful to be here with so many friends. I'm seeing so many family members, so many that have been with me for so many years and believed in this campaign. Thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I love you too. You know, Toronto is a city of neighborhoods, of communities stitched together by so many cultures, so many languages, and incredible people. On our own, we are just individuals, but together, we are communities and neighborhoods making up this amazing city we call home. This amazing city I've called home since I was 15. And it's up to each one of us to be good neighbors, to come together and help build our city each and every day. The results of tonight are not what we were hoping for. I know. but after speaking, after speaking with tens of thousands of residents in every corner of Toronto, I'm so optimistic about the future of our city. And I want to sincerely congratulate Olivia Chow on her win tonight. Congratulations, Olivia. Our city faces many challenges, and I wish you all the best as you navigate these challenges alongside City Council and working with other governments. In our city's most challenging moments, Toronto has always had a way of coming together to find solutions. And now with Olivia Chow as our next mayor, it's time to come together, to be there for one another, and to support solutions that fix our services, that build housing, and make life more affordable to all the residents of Toronto. We all know this was a long and unexpected campaign, and I would also like to congratulate the other candidates, many of whom I consider friends. So thank you and congratulations to Mark Saunders, Mitzi Hunter, Brad Bradford, Josh Matlow, Chloe Brown, Anthony Furey, and to all the 102 candidates, including Molly the dog, who were brave and bold. You know, everybody was brave and bold to put their name on the ballot. Campaigns are never easy, but nothing worth doing is ever easy. Isn't that right? That's right. So no one knows that more than the thousands of volunteers in every campaign, which brings me to our amazing and incredible team. So what can I say? And quoting our very own Furey, best ever!
Okay. Yeah.
You know, Team Bailão and our bumblebees and Zesty Yellow, yes, Zesty Yellow is the color, forever and to stay. Thank you to all the bumblebees from the bottom of my heart. For my entire life, I will be grateful for every minute you put into this campaign. And thank you. It's just been incredible. We visited a record-setting 700,000 doors. That is right, 700,000 doors. Just this week alone, in 1 week, we've been to 150,000 doors. This team have been out there. And we made over 2 million calls. Never getting discouraged by any poll, never getting discouraged by every comment, because we knew, we believed in our message, we believed that our team could get it out there, the message of building housing, of fixing service, and of making life more affordable. We took it to Scarborough, we took it to North York, we took it to Etobicoke, and we took it to downtown. And people listened. With the amount of votes that we got tonight, they heard our message. You poured your hard work, your aspirations, your grit, and your optimism in your campaign. So thank you for every call, every post, especially my sister. I heard she was pretty good. I was not allowed to be I was not allowed to be on social media, so I just hear rumors here and there. So for every conversation that you had with your neighbors, with your friends, thank you. And friends that you dragged along to E-Day to be knocking on doors, because I ran with so many of you and met some of your family members. Thank you. Thank you for every single step that you walked, reaching voters at their doorsteps. Thank you every event that you helped organize. Thank you for the message that you shared in our campaign message. Thank you for every dollar donated. Thank you for every dollar raised. We ran an incredible campaign, and I am so grateful to each and every one of you. We had hundreds of volunteers, but there
All
are
right, you were just listening to Ana Bailão giving a very classy concession speech. Here is Mark Saunders now about to address.
First off, let me just say thank you so much for everyone for being here. And you know what, friends, family, I'm going to let us get back to our party and to have some fun. First, I want to thank every single candidate that took part in this election. Putting yourselves on the line means that you love the city just as much as we love the city. And we want what's best for the city of Toronto, because this is the best city in the world, and it is composed of amazing people. And I want to say thank you to all of you folks out there, everybody here, for all that you've done. I sincerely mean it. It has been a journey from the ground up. But I want to say congratulations to Olivia Chow. She fought a tough fight, and at the end of the day, she came out victorious. And you know what? We have to do everything we can to make this city an amazing city, an incredible city that it is, but we have so much further to do. So we have to support Olivia Chow in that position of mayor, because there's a lot of work that we all have to do. And I want to say to my team right now, it takes a village to raise a candidate, and trust me, everybody here did just that. So to everyone on the organization and field teams, to our tour team, to our data team, to our social media and digital teams, to our policy team, our communications team, and to our fundraising team, well done. Okay. And last but not least, to my family, my lovely wife, Stacy, who put me on this journey, and my immediate family that were involved in it, my brothers, my sisters, everybody. You know, this is the start of moving forward in the city of Toronto, and it's important that each and every one of us take part in that. If you voted today, I want to say thank you for voting, because that's key and critical. You put your stamp on what you wanted the city to be and the direction in which it needs to go, and I fully am grateful for that. The next 3 years, we all have to work together to make us safe, healthy, and strong and vibrant. I spoke on public safety, I spoke on affordability, and I spoke on traffic congestion and a whole bunch of other things, and I'm willing to help to see what needs to be done to move that forward. But as we grow as a city of Toronto, and as we have 500,000 more newcomers coming in within the next several years, we all have to get it right. So on behalf of the city of Toronto, I want to say thank you for all of the support that you provided to me, knocking on doors, talking to you, and hearing what you wanted to make Toronto become Toronto. We'll see what tomorrow brings, but right now, we all have to be positive to move forward so that we can continue to have Toronto to be the legacy city and the greatest city in the world. Thank you so much for everything.
All right, that is Mark Saunders giving a concession speech tonight. He's standing up there with his wife. This after the results came in. 96% of the polls reporting now Olivia Chow, as Global News has declared, is Toronto's new mayor. She took 37.2% of the vote. So far, results are still coming in. 32.5% going to Ana Bailão at this time. So we just heard two concession speeches there, Alan, one from Mark Saunders, one from Ana Bailão. Ana Bailão speaking to how Toronto still needs to come together under Olivia Chow. And she thanked all of her supporters and hopes the best for Toronto's future.
Yeah, we've heard congratulations from Ana Bailão and from Mark Saunders, and another congratulations has just come in. I want to read you a little bit of it. I want to congratulate Olivia Chow on tonight's election win. We may not always agree on everything, but we can agree on our shared commitment to making Toronto a place where businesses, families can thrive. That is from Premier Doug Ford issuing his statement tonight. I'm willing to work with anybody to make life more affordable. Back to our panel. You know what's interesting? When I talked to Olivia Chow, Kim, she said exactly this. We share the same commitment, she said, of Doug Ford. We both love Toronto.
Absolutely, they do. And look, what you say during a campaign is different than what you say when you start to govern. And the two of them will have to start a conversation that starts with a new relationship. Now, they already have a relationship. You know, you may remember when Jack Layton passed away, Rob Ford was the mayor at the time, and there was a lot of common ground that could be found, and a lot of consoling between the grief of the two. They will find a way to work together because Torontonians expect it. They both represent Toronto, and they're going to have to do that. As much as it's fun for people to pick on Toronto, and God knows I do it, but I think you're going to see Mayor Chow and Premier Ford get along quite well.
Unmitigated disaster, Ed. Unmitigated disaster.
That's what he was saying. And I mean, the conservative sort of establishment that's run this city for 12 years, and the warring factions of it in Doug Ford and John Tory really threw everything at the wall at the 11th hour here to try and stop Chow from winning. But now that she's won, I think we're seeing this conciliatory tone. All of her opponents who've conceded so far, Mark Saunders and Ana Bailão, have said, you know, they really want to help her succeed. Doug Ford, very conciliatory. I think there's a chance there is common ground there. I don't think it's going to be easy for them to work together, and there's a lot they don't agree on. But I do think that they have a personal relationship that has been friendly, and I think that there's also enough shared goals and a desire to see the city succeed, that they'll try to find ways, for sure.
Yeah, let's see how long that lasts for. Because see, I asked Olivia Chow, how are you going to do things like, I don't know, fight the move of the Science Center to Ontario Place, or any number of other issues that she opposes Doug Ford on. And what she told me was that she would get on the phone, or on the bully pulpit rather, in front of the microphone, and tell voters, well, you should maybe not have a conservative as your member then, because that's not what democracy is. So would a public relation campaign work?
I'm not too sure if it would. I mean, at the end of the day, the Premier now knows that she has a mandate from the people of Toronto for the most part. So he's going to do everything he can to work for her and with her, especially when it comes to the betterment of Toronto. But when it comes to things like opposing the Science Centre, I think that she's going to have a little more challenge, because he's already dug his heels in and said, basically, look, this is happening with or without you. Now, if she's able to mobilize council, there is a history of, again, councils working and getting their way in some way, shape, or form in conversation with the province. But when it comes to a move like the Science Centre, highly doubtful.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that has worked for Toronto mayors in the past, and it has worked repeatedly, is using that bully pulpit. And it's not to start an outright war with the Premier. But I think when Mel Lastman wanted more funding after amalgamation, when David Miller wanted a new deal for cities from the federal government, when John Tory was objecting to public health cuts, in all of those cases, they sort of sounded the alarms and rallied the public to start calling their MPPs, their Conservative MPPs, and in a lot of cases, they get the province to back down. And I think that's kind of what Olivia Chow is talking about. But I think, you know, she'd be wise, as she told the Toronto Star when she visited the editorial board there, and I sat in on that meeting, that, you know, her step one is for her to try and talk to him and say, is there a way that we can find a way together on this, and we can both come out and declare a win together before we do that public relations battle, right? So I think it's step one and step two.
And that's always been Olivia's MO, how she conducted herself when she was a city councilor or trustee before, working with her colleagues across the political spectrum. And she will find those moments of common ground. She will figure out ways in which to advocate. What is it that is causing the concern that we need to overcome? That's always how she has acted. I suspect it'll be the very same way with the Premier. That will require, you know, conversations, hard conversations, but the value at the end will be so much the richer. And, you know, as I say to my own clients, and same advice I give to politicians, it's called government relations. It's intergovernmental relations. It's fundamentally about the relationship you formed. And what, you know, you don't expect to see, you know, Doug Ford paddling Olivia with a cricket bat like you saw.
You think he'll be out with a little red shovel digging her car out of the, or her bike out of the snow, like he did a couple of winters ago? I guess, you know, it's easy to say that everybody's going to get along as we take a look at Josh Matlow. I believe his campaign is, I think he's speaking now, or we're at least waiting for Olivia Chow. I guess my point is here, it's easy to say, hey, we're all going to get along, except for Doug Ford and the provincial government. The city of Toronto is the creature of the provincial government. They hold all the cards.
It's a creature, but they're also $1.5 billion in debt, and that's going to be the big factor here, especially for Mayor Chow. She has to understand how to play her cards right when she's advocating upwards to Premier Ford, to Prime Minister Trudeau. It's going to be really important, because no matter how high you raise property taxes, mathematically, it's going to be very difficult to dig yourself out of this hole. If you look at a sister city like Chicago, they were able to successfully get funds from their federal government, which put them in a greater financial position. So she has to be the advocate in chief going forward, and I think that's something that she knows going in.
Okay, let's get to, I'm sure they're playing Black Eyed Peas somewhere at the Olivia Chow headquarters right now, and Matthew Bingley is likely trying out some of his latest dance moves. Let's check in with Matt Bingley at the Chow headquarters. Bust a move for us.
I already look like a bad DJ enough as it is. You know, it's one thing to really say, just picking up on what some of the panelists were saying there, was that, you know, one of the difficult things is obviously winning this election, but I was talking to one of the party supporters, and he was saying, you know, our two biggest fears are one, losing, and two, winning, because really all the hard work beginning tomorrow. We're hearing that Olivia Chow is planning on being at the City Hall in the morning to start beginning to get the ball in motion for the transition. But really, you look at the monumental task ahead of her of, you know, dealing with that financial shortfall, dealing with the homelessness crisis, dealing with affordability, and she put forward a lot of big ideas. What will be really interesting is seeing how she works with the existing power structure at City Hall. You know, Deputy Mayor McKelvey, she endorsed someone else. Does she stay Deputy Mayor, or does she even lose her committee position? Brad Bradford is the chair of the Planning and Housing Committee. You know, you could look at someone as with that sort of talent and say, I want to keep you in a position where you can actually do some good. But remember, some of the fiercest things that we've heard during the campaign were from Bradford directed at Olivia Chow. So it'll be interesting to see if she can turn the other cheek, or if there are more concerns of the fact that we're just 3 years down the line to another municipal election. Do they worry about Bradford perhaps being a factor in that next election? And the same could be said about some of the others. You know, one of the biggest conversations we've been having down at the press gallery is, where does Matlow go? He's been an outsider at City Hall for years. Do they lean on him and his experience of being a bit of an attack dog as perhaps deputy mayor, like we saw with former councillor Denzel Minnan-Wong under John Tory's leadership? So a lot of really interesting factors that we're going to start seeing really propelling in the next couple of days. But really, right now, all we're really waiting on is seeing when Olivia Chow comes out to deliver her speech. I was just talking with Mike Layden, former city councillor, stepson. He was saying he'll come back, but he's got the kids to take care of tonight. Right now, just to give our viewers an update, we are waiting on the Chow campaign to decide when she's going to come out. So far, no word on that yet, but then the other side is when she actually gets sworn in, because the city clerk has said, you know, it really depends. It's all about schedules. He has to certify those results, and then they figure out when she's actually sworn in. So kind of like tonight, we're in a bit of a holding pattern. I'll send it back to you.
Okay, thanks, Matt. I want you to stand by here as we just take a look at our results again. Here are the results as they break down. We have Olivia Chow, who has won tonight with 37% of the vote. In second place, about 5 points back. Interesting to hear from Ed Keenan, him talking about the history of politics and electoral races in this city, and a 5-point spread is kind of what we see. We've seen that a number of times before, so perhaps this isn't as close as we think overall. In third place, Mark Saunders, his numbers obviously just collapsing over the last 72 hours, down to 8.6%. Anthony Furey says he's disappointed with 5%, but really, at the beginning of this race, he was an also-ran. He wasn't at the debates, and he managed to finish fourth. Josh Matlow at 4.9%. Mitzi Hunter, who gives up her seat as a member of provincial parliament, at 2.9%. Chloe Brown at 2.6%. Brad Bradford, the city councillor, at 1.3%. Matt, you have covered this race since the beginning. I just ran down your top 8 there. Discounting number 1 and 2, is there a number in number 1 through 8, a finisher there that really stands out to you as a surprise?
You know, the fact that Mark Saunders and Andrew Furey are a bit neck and neck there is really interesting, especially because the questions that we're always going to hear after this is going to be, you know, if only this person didn't run, if only that person didn't run, I would have been with Marlon Brando line, but they could have been a contender. You know, that really is just the question of just if there were so many people, if Brad Bradford didn't get into this, if he and Ana Bailão, who have always sort of been seen as almost co-heirs apparent to John Tory, if they had only decided on one side or the other, could they have really solidified their vote? Because as many people as I heard saying that they really did not know who to vote for. You know, I talked to one voter today. They said they looked at all of these numbers and saw 102 candidates and didn't like any of them. But if you obviously have a smaller list, then maybe that's the kind of time where you can, I guess, make the harder decision and decide what you're going to do. But at this point, you know, it's really anyone's wonder.
Matt Bingley, who is standing by live at the Chow headquarters. We're expecting Olivia Chow to speak in a little bit. We're back with our panel. We ran through our top 8. One of the storylines, the weirdest perhaps storyline in this entire campaign, is Edward Gong, who he had his campaign signs everywhere. They were. My 14-year-old son says to me, I saw an ad for him on YouTube. He's playing video games. He sees an ad for it. Our numbers now show that he's going to finish 11th. He's got about 3,000 votes, perhaps not as many as some people maybe even thought going into this. Can you characterize his candidacy? Ed, I'll start with you.
Well, I mean, this is what we see now, is that if you have a big budget for advertising, not only he won the sign more on public property, probably, right? Beside highways and major roads and whatnot. But he had an ad in Yonge Dundas Square. He had ads on the transit system, on the sides of buses. And so we see now, I guess, about 0.5% of a vote. That's what you get for pure advertising if you're an unknown person with maybe a questionable business history,
maybe questionable,
has been reported, but also a catchy last name. I think he also stole the show in the Pride Parade, literally banging a gong, dressed up like a storm ship trooper or something.
Yeah, you know what? Floats in the Pride Parade don't come free. That's expensive.
No, I mean, Bradford had his pedal pub he was shooting off the water guns off of. They don't. And the gong is an interesting one, and obviously we'll see when his campaign filings come in, where his resources came from, how many signs they actually bought. They did postal walks, they did signs, they did ads in Yonge Dundas Square, they did taxi ads, bus ads. The question, even during the debates, you saw his ads on the ticker below the candidates. How much does that then brand into some of these other candidates who actually legitimately campaigned, and some of them sit on city council? And what does that look like going into the 2026 election? Because the next campaign does start tonight. Sorry to say that, but
I got to wrap this up. But can anybody, why? Just why? Why? Like, what's in it for him?
Why did Molly the dog do it? I mean, the reality is that some of these
hundreds
guys,
of thousands of dollars.
They will always be forevermore former mayoralty candidate X. And there is some cachet that comes with that. And regardless of what their results are, they will always be that. Even Frank D'Angelo will get to say that with his
My
Wikipedia.
old high school English teacher ran. As far as I can tell, he didn't spend a single dollar on advertising, but he got, at last I checked, 48 votes.
All right, well, Mr. Gong spent a lot of money. That is some expensive cachet.
That's it.
Tracy, back to you.
All right, thank you so much for that, Alan. We are going to send things over to Mark Saunders' headquarters, where our Colin DeMello is, our Queen's Park Bureau Chief also. Colin, let's talk about how Ford and Olivia Chow are going to work together. Now, Ford just releasing a statement a little bit ago, congratulating Olivia Chow, having nice words to say after calling her a disaster throughout the campaign.
Yeah, this is quite a change in tone for Doug Ford. Just a few days ago, he said, as you mentioned, that an Olivia Chow mayoralty would be an unmitigated disaster for Toronto, that it would be gravy train 2.0, that she would raise taxes by 25%, something Olivia Chow denied. Today, though, Premier Doug Ford sending a statement that says that he knows that Olivia Chow has a proven desire and dedication to serve the city of Toronto. He says that they might not be able to agree on a lot of things, but he says that they can agree agree on their shared commitment to making Toronto a place where businesses, families, and workers can survive. So what's going to be happening behind the scenes in the days to come? Olivia Chow's staff will start talking to the chief of staff and those inside the Premier's office. They'll start touching base on critical files that they can work together, things like building affordable housing. Of course, the City of Toronto is going to be central to the Premier's pledge to build 1.5 million homes by 2031. But there are some questions about how these two are going to come together on things like the Ontario Science Centre and the Ontario Place situation. They will really come to loggerheads over the two. In an interview that Olivia Chow did with Alan Carter, she had mentioned that when they come to thornier issues, she will try her best to negotiate with Doug Ford. But if she cannot negotiate, that's when she says she'll try to weaponize her voters, her supporters, to make Doug Ford listen to what her point of view actually is, putting a bit of political pressure, turning up that heat. So we'll see what this relationship looks like in the days ahead. But the Premier's proven that he can work with some of his adversaries. Look at Andrea Horwath, Stephen Del Duca, Patrick Brown, and even Bonnie Crombie. I mean, he's able to put aside all of those electoral differences and work with them in that capacity as mayor, as long as they have shared objectives. So as long as these two can keep it on that narrow path of maybe building affordable housing or affordability issues, they may be able to work together towards that common outcome. But here's another interesting thing. Toronto, for the first time in a long time, has a Liberal Prime Minister, a Conservative Premier, and now an NDP Mayor. These are three different political stripes, all having support in the City of Toronto and courting city voters. So they're all going to have to work together if they want that continued outcome of electoral success.
Absolutely. And if you'll remember, Colin, I know you do, that Olivia Chow and Doug Ford actually ran against each other in the 2014 mayoral election. So that rivalry also exists. All right, let's send things over. Thank you so much for that, Colin. We want to take you back to Olivia Chow headquarters now. Some action happening on the stage there. People holding signs, dancing, waiting for that acceptance speech that is about to happen at any moment now, Alan.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to hear what Olivia Chow has to say. Colin mentioned the interview that I did with Olivia Chow. I spoke with all seven of the leading contenders to be mayor. I asked them each to pick their own location for an interview. Most, with the exception of Mark Saunders, who chose Regent Park, most chose to do the interview close to their power base, their homes, where they'd been elected. Brad Bradford, the Danforth, Ana Bailão, Little Portugal. Well, Olivia Chow chose Kensington Market, and she was the only one that had a reaction where people would come across the street, they want selfies with her, they stop cars to pull over to tell her that they put up signs for. People would come across the street and tell her stories about how she had a connection somehow to their life. She has been a fixture in this city for decades, and that name recognition, that instantly recognizable, and her authenticity obviously connected with voters.
Well, Olivia, and we've met her many times, Alan, she has charisma and she knows how to connect with people, right? And I want to bring in Daryl Bricker now from Ipsos to talk a little bit more about that. What really made the people connect with Olivia? Daryl, I think that a lot of people feel like they know what they're getting with Olivia because she's been a constant in our lives. For people who have lived in Toronto for a long time, they've known her in the federal realm and in municipal politics as well. And going forward, what do you think, because people know so much about her and about her policies, what do you think her approval rating will be down the line?
Well, it'll be very interesting to see because tonight she won by the lowest vote total of any mayor since amalgamation. So in terms of the percentage of vote that she won, so it wasn't an overwhelming mandate that she won tonight. And quite frankly, there was a fairly consolidated movement at the very end of this campaign, a very rare one, trying to stop her by voting for another candidate. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not she got the signal about how controversial she actually is with Toronto's. Yeah, Torontonians. Yeah, I think people generally are okay with Olivia Chow, but they have there's a significant part of the population that has problems with maybe her potential political agenda.
You know, we heard this message throughout the campaign, the loudest from Saunders, stop Chow, stop Chow. That did not seem to work in Saunders' favor, but do you think that that messaging really is what drove a lot of the voters for Ana Bailão tonight?
Yeah, I think the endorsement of John Tory had some impact here, but also just people waking up at very late in the campaign, because this was a fairly sedate campaign, but waking up fairly late in the campaign to the fact that they were going to end up having Olivia Chow as their mayor. Some people really liked that idea. In fact, Olivia Chow's numbers held solid all the way through this campaign. But people who are on the other side, who would normally not be for necessarily the progressive candidate, decided that they needed another option, and they moved very, very decisively to Ms. Bailão.
Daryl, have you ever seen the numbers swing like this on election day? And let's just remind our viewers, a week ago, opinion polls had Ana Bailão at about 12%, I believe it was. And tonight we are seeing her at 32.5%. Have you seen something like this?
We have seen it over the course of a week, but this one seemed to really happen more like over the course of 2 days. And that is very unprecedented. So there was a lot of people, if we went back and we asked people why they voted today, but not only why they voted, when they made up their mind, I think you're going to see a substantial number of people who voted for Ana Bailão made up their mind today in the voting booth.
All right, Daryl Bricker, thanks so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
And we are just taking another live look at Olivia Chow's headquarters.
For this historic night.
Let's listen in.
I'm Mike Layton, and I'm so proud. To be here tonight to stand alongside Olivia with our family. Now, before we hear from the next mayor of Toronto, I would like to acknowledge the land that this traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat people, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. I would also like to acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaty, signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. I'd like to finally say that this land is also subject with the dish with one spoon wampum. And for me, that means that we all have a bond with the land and with each other. And that what we take, we must also return.
Thanks, Mike. I'm Sarah Layton, and on behalf of all of our family, I'm so excited and proud to have the honor of welcoming my stepmother, the next mayor of Toronto, Olivia Chow! Wow! Thank you, Toronto! Thank you, everyone. Wow, what a night. If you ever doubted what's possible together, if you ever questioned your faith in a better future and what we can do with each other, for each other, tonight is your answer. Thank you to the people of Toronto for the trust you've placed in me and the mandate for change as your new mayor. And whether you voted for me or not, we're united in our love for this great city. I pledge to you, I will dedicate myself to work tirelessly in building a city that's more caring, affordable, and safe, where everyone belongs. Toronto, my home. I immigrated here when I was 13 to this place of hope where my family found an affordable apartment in St. Jamestown. My father had mental illness and could not work, but my mother was able to pay the rent and put food on the table. With one single income as a hotel maid. Toronto was a place where I could later afford my own apartment after university. And that's where my mother came to live with me and rebuild her life after my dad hurt her very badly. Me on the mattress, on the floor, mom on the bed. She could heal because she had a home. Toronto was a place where someone like me could afford to grow up, become a school trustee, a city councillor, and a member of parliament. It's where I served the city with passion and love, where I worked hard to champion the well-being of children. And while I've been knocked down a few times over the years, yeah, just like you, I always got back up. Because the people of this city, all of you, are worth the fight. I know things are tough these days. It's harder to get by and harder to get around. It takes longer, but don't give up. Toronto is a place of hope, a place of second chances, right? A city where an immigrant kid from St. Jamestown can be standing in front of you as your new mayor. I believe in Toronto's future because we all shared one thing: hope. Yeah. The hope that comes from finding an affordable place to live. Yeah. Hope that our kids can grow up in a city of opportunity. The hope of a city that's strengthened by compassion, not weakened by inequality. A place where if we chip in a little more, we can improve public services and make our city. Yeah. Yeah, improve public service and make our city more livable. Yeah. That's hope. That shared belief in what's possible is what will sustain us in the months ahead. Building more affordable housing. Yeah. Making TDC safer, faster, and more reliable, huh? Keeping Ontario Place public. Where my grandkids and I can watch the sunset and skip stones. Building a city that cares. That's what we're all about, right? But the work of changing a city left behind by a decade of neglect is not going to be easy. Okay? The work of change is always hard. We will face some roadblocks along the way, But I know we can make it happen by committing ourselves to each other and to the city we love. Our work to build a city where everyone belongs starts right now. Now, speaking of working together, I said to Premier Ford, who graciously called me tonight, and his minister, Steve Clark, called me, and he said, we look forward to working together. Yes. We look forward to finding common ground, right? Because I know we both believe in this people of this city. And yes, we both believe in, we love the city. The people have sent a message today. They want to get things done. Yeah. Like building affordable housing and improving TTC. Well, Mr. Premier, we're ready. Let's work together to get it done. And to the Prime Minister, I look forward to working with your government. A healthy and a livable Toronto is essential to a strong Toronto. And Canada, a strong Canada. Yes. Yeah. Now, this campaign had so many talented candidates, and I spoke to them. Ana Bailão, Mark Saunders, Josh Matlow. Yeah, I phoned them, they phoned me, and we pledged to work together, okay? And of course, Mitzi Hunter, Anthony Furey, Brad Bradford, and Chloe Brown. Yes. And my friend, Gil Penalosa, who worked with me for I want to thank you for all of you to sharing your ideas and your passion. We all share a deep love for this city, and I'm driven by a common belief that everyone should have an affordable place to live. So to all the candidates, each one of you, and to Toronto City Council, to the public service, business and labor, yeah, civil society, community leaders, yeah, and the people of this great city, I invite you to join me, and let's work together to make the promise of an affordable home a reality for everyone. And to follow a saying that the Somali mothers have taught me, if we come together, we can mend a crack in the sky. Yes, indeed. We can mend cracks in this city. To my family, Sarah and Hugh, Mike and Brett and Sally, I love you. Thank you for standing beside me all these years. And to my beautiful grandkids, Beatrice, Solace, Phoebe, and Chloe. Yeah. I hope your grandma Ollie makes you proud. And to the best campaign team in the country. All of you. All of you. Yeah. You make this campaign a home for everyone. Yes, yes. And they led with heart, passion, and hard work every single day. Thank you so very, very much. And to the thousands of volunteers. And just today, there were 2,500 volunteers out in the street today. Throughout the campaign, you knocked on 500,000 doors. You made calls. Yeah, and you paint the city purple with t-shirts and signs. You gave me strength after long days of door knocking, public events, debates, and there were a lot of debates, yeah? We joined together to rebuild the promise of our city. Reorganize block by block. Yes, your love, your compassion, your commitment, and your stories filled me with the energy to fight for you every day. Your stories are the inspiration of this campaign. People like the fierce and now famous Dahlia, yeah, is she here today? Who struggle between paying rent and having great food to eat at the end of the month. Her story resonated with so many people across this city. Or Joseph, who can't retire even though he was exhausted and bone tired because his rent is just too high. Or Sarah, a childcare worker who was trapped in an abusive relationship, like so many women in our city, in our country, like my mother, because she couldn't afford a place for her and her kids. It was tough. They are why we must continue to work for change. Yes. So, are you ready to go get to work? Yeah, we're ready. Yes. Together, we will open up City Hall. Join me in the work ahead. Join me with each other, for each other, because I need you to keep speaking out with your ideas, keep helping out, keep caring for each other, because what we've won today is an opportunity. Okay? A starting point in our journey towards a more affordable, safe, and caring city. So you're sure now you're ready, right? Yeah. Together we can create a better city. Thank you so much.
And with that acceptance speech, Olivia Chow will be Toronto's next mayor. She will also be the first mayor of visible minority in Toronto's history, Alan, and she will be the first female mayor in a post-amalgamation Toronto. Very significant milestones there. Let's talk about her speech for a moment. She gave a deeply personal one, shared her story of a troubled upbringing, abuse within the family, struggles when it came to making ends meet. And these are some of the things that a lot of Torontonians have top of mind these days. I think she really speaks to people that way.
You know, interesting that the top 3 finishers in this race are all immigrants to this country and to this city. Olivia Chow came here when she was 13. Ana Bailão came here when she was 15. Chow talked tonight about being an immigrant kid from St. Jamestown who has now risen to become the mayor of this city, a remarkable achievement.
And there she is, all smiles under showers of confetti, making promises of rainbows and butterflies. You know, she speaks a lot about hope for this city. Can she make those promises come true?
All right, let's get to our panel. We only have a couple minutes left, guys. Let's just get to you right now. Job 1 for Olivia Chow. Kim, let's start with you.
Get sworn in, get her team up and running, and start to engage with councillors across all of council, not just those who supported her, but across council. She's really good at bringing people along for the ride, and that's what she's going to need to do over the next 4 years.
Ed Keenan, let's talk about how she is going to work with Doug Ford realistically and dive into a statement a little bit.
Well, I mean, I think actually that what Kim says about job 1 and getting council on board and getting a governing majority kind of working at council is a really important step as it relates to dealing with Doug Ford. I mean, he's struck a conciliatory tone as you'd expect tonight, but of course it's not going to be all sunshine and roses. And so I think if she can find with him a couple pieces of common ground that they can kind of raise their hands together on very quickly, that might be the right step to begin on.
Saeed, to you, number 1 job.
Number 1 job is, of course, building consensus. And look, when Olivia Chow came into this campaign, she brought along name recognition. Where does that name recognition come from? It comes from a really, really strong background of politics and advocacy. I mean, look, we have to give Olivia Chow her flowers tonight. It is an incredible win for her. It's an incredible win for many of her supporters. And she has to now translate that across City Hall. She's no slouch. She's been around City Hall. She's been a councillor. Even when I was with the Toronto Youth Cabinet, we worked together on a number of things. So I think that she is going to have not too many challenges in bridging some gaps, but she's got her work cut out for her in the coming years ahead.
Saeed Salvan from New West Strategies, Kim Wright, and Ed Keenan, thank you so much to all of you for being with us tonight.
That concludes our special election coverage. For full results of tonight's vote, you can head over to globalnews.ca/Toronto.
And we're going to have more coverage tonight on Global News at 11. Please join us then. Have a great evening.
See you again soon.